Good evening, YouTube. It's Hannah from Smaugish, and as you can possibly tell by my makeup, this is a bit of a Halloween video. And so I thought I would do a series of two special videos for Halloween, talking to you about some classic gothic books and some of my favourite horror movies, just to help you get in the mood. Just quickly, I'm not going to do a video on this look. This is my Halloween sort of makeup. This isn't probably the makeup I'm going to wear to any of the Halloween events. I've got a couple of Halloween events I might be going to. But I thought I would just, all using drugstore apart from this, I thought I would go with sort of like a dead Victorian sort of person. So I've just used, I think it's Makeup Revolution Ghost Lights, the Ghost Powder, sorry, all over my face. I could have put my Illamasqua white foundation on as well, but I couldn't be bothered. And then I used the Ghost Sculpt to sort of really contour and try and make myself look a bit gaunt. And then I used NYX shadow and then the Ghost Sculpt again to sort of really sink my sort of eye sockets, make them look really sunken. And then this is just a Kiko Milano taupe lipstick that I just smudged out to make my lips look a bit dead, because I don't know if you've ever seen dead people on like murder shows or whatever, but they have blue lips. You lose all the blood from your lips, so that's that. And then this is just two shades of Kat Von D liquid lipstick, sort of look like I've been coughing up blood. Lovely, I think you'll agree. Anyway, this first video I'm going to talk about books. Sort of gothic and horror books that I think you should know about, and if you want to feel a bit spooky, maybe these will help you over Halloween. If you don't have any plans, go to a shop this weekend, pick these up and spend next Tuesday reading them. I do know a little bit about gothic literature, not as much as I would like to, but I'm really interested. I want to do another master's degree in gothic literature and Victorian horror and all that kind of thing. So the first thing I will say, if you have any interest in gothic literature or anything like that, I would really implore you to really go back to the beginning and start. There's Matthew Lewis's The Monk, which is a really, really classic book, and it's kind of disturbing in parts, but that is like a classic goth book. The other one is this, which is The Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe, and it's quite a big one, and yeah, this is just a really classic gothic work. It's one of the most sort of like groundbreaking pieces of writing in the gothic genre. It really sort of helped gothic literature, I guess, develop, and a lot of the tropes and symbols of early gothic literature kind of come from this book. There's others as well, but yeah, this one, The Mysteries of Udolpho, definitely pick it up. As I said, Matthew Lewis The Monk is another one if you're interested in gothic literature. The other one I'm quickly going to say, because I cannot find my copy of it anywhere, and I've got a really nice edition on my Christmas list, is H.P. Lovecraft. I am a big fan of Lovecraft. His writing style is very florid and quite difficult to digest at times, but he's classic, and like the things that he created, the characters, the mythos that he created, like it's still part of our gothic horror makeup now. I definitely think, look at the Cthulhu mythos, Mountains of Madness, the Call of Cthulhu, the Dunwich Horror, but there's more to H.P. Lovecraft than just Cthulhu, so really pick up an anthology. You can get lots and lots of anthologies of Lovecraft's work and just trawl through, see what you like. But I think those three are some of my favourites. The Mountains of Madness, Call of Cthulhu, and the Dunwich Horror, they're like the classic ones. Shadow Over Innsmouth is another great one. But just, yeah, just go and have a look and see what you can find. So I'm going to start off with sort of a few more modern horror books that I think, you know, you could really get away with. Another thing that I've realised I can't find my copy of is Susan Hill, The Woman in Black. It's a brilliant book, genuinely scary. I had to read it with the lights on. I have a very overactive imagination, so that helps me get scared by books, but that book was pretty chilling. One on a similar vein that I could literally not put down, and when I got to the sort of like the ending of it, I actually stood up out of my seat and I was like, what? But it was a bit of a slow burner. It took a couple of chapters for me to really get into it, but that's The Voices by F.R. Tallis. This book was, yeah, really creepy and thrilling. It took a while to get into it, but once I was hooked, I did not put it down until I'd finished. And like I said, I literally got out of my seat. I was standing up reading it for the last few pages. It's a pretty big twist. Probably the sort of twist that you could see coming if you really thought about it, but very, very creepy and excellent. And if you like sort of ghost stories, yeah, this is excellent. Another one that is a really recent finish of mine, well, the next three are quite recent finishes of mine. I read The Voices a couple of years ago, but Hex by Thomas Oldie Huvelt. And if you sort of my vlog recently and everything, I've been talking about reading this book a bit, and I finished it a couple of days ago, and yeah, it was really good. Quite chilling, quite creepy rather than scary. Kind of went a bit crazy at the end, but it was very creepy, and it's one of those books that the more you thought about it and sat down and really took in what you were reading, the more you thought, oh my god, this is creepy. I'm not going to say too much, but it's about a town that is haunted by a witch, or the corporeal ghost of a witch, and the whole town is cursed, and you cannot leave Black Spring. That's the town. You cannot leave there. If you live in Black Spring, you know about the curse, and you can't leave. You're stuck there for the rest of your life, and you have to keep the curse a secret from outsiders. So it's all about, you know, that, and there's the curse, and there's the witch, and there's some really like disturbing scenes and some really creepy things in it, and it's just a great read. The next one, this is a book I read on holiday, and it's Horns by Joe Hill. And it was just fantastic. It was made into a film, which I haven't seen yet, but the book was great. It's all about Ig, who is a young man, and his girlfriend was raped and murdered, and he is basically the only suspect, but he did not do it. Everyone in his town assumes that he did do it, but he didn't do it. He's perfectly innocent. And one day he wakes up and he's growing horns out of his head, and he finds that he can influence people, and he can get those people to tell him their darkest desires and things like that, and he can influence them to do things. So he decides that he's going to use this new power and his horns to track down what really happened to his girlfriend, and the horns start to have an effect on Ig, and it's really good. Again, it's not particularly scary, but it is dark, and it is sometimes creepy, and the things that are happening to Ig, and especially the last part of the book, that is more creepy, but it's not scary. But yeah, it's a really good read. Something that is a bit more scary, and again was one of these books I started reading it. I mention it in my vlog. If you've seen my vlog from my half term, I started reading it at 10:30 in the morning, and I didn't finish reading it until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill. This is one of the best, most original, scary ghost story books I've ever read in my life. It was absolutely fantastic. It's about Judas Coyne, who is like an old legendary metal musician, and he likes collecting creepy oddities and morbid things, and he buys a ghost off the internet, and when he gets this ghost, it's sent to him in a heart-shaped box. He opens up the heart-shaped box, and there is a suit. The suit is haunted, but it gets a bit more to it than that. I don't want to say too much because it will give it away, but yeah, this is just a brilliant read, and I really wish it was made into a series or a film or something. I think it would be brilliant. But I cannot recommend this enough. If you like a creepy read, if you like a scary book, read this. It is riveting. So that's the more modern things. Now we're going to go on to some classics. So now I'm on to what I would call the trifecta. And that is the 3 authors that any gothic, horror, Halloween book recommendation video would not be complete without. The first one is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This book is a masterpiece. Undeniable why it's given such a high place in the canon, the literary canon. It's just incredible. It's a fantastic take on humanity and what it means to be human and what we can do, and ambition and pride, and just there's so much going on in this book. And it is actually kind of scary in parts. I think it's creepy when you think about it, and think about the kind of things that Frankenstein is willing to do for his research and all of that kind of thing. Her language is beautiful. The imagery that she creates is beautiful and stark. And this is just one of the greatest things ever written. And it's nearly 300 years old. It will be 300 years in January this year. The 3rd, I think. 300 years since it was published. So it's a pretty important time in the history of Frankenstein at the moment. So yes, Frankenstein. The next one, I've got another one, and it's of course Dracula by Bram Stoker. Now this can be a little bit difficult to read because it's an epistolary novel, told through letters, diary entries, transcripts of phonographs, you know, like early sound recordings. So that can make it a little bit crazy, and obviously lots of different characters tell their point of the story because we have different people's journal entries, different people's letters, different people's, you know, recordings of themselves. But it is fantastic, and again I actually think it is generally scary in parts. And lots of people know Dracula, lots of people know the mythos, lots of people know the movies and everything, but Dracula in this is definitely a monstrous creature. I don't think he's a romantic hero at all. There is, you know, that sexual thing with the vampire and everything, but Dracula is definitely a monster in this. There's a scene, Jonathan Harker is in the castle and he describes how he watches Dracula crawl out of the window and crawl down the side of the castle like a lizard. That doesn't sound sexy to me, but there are sexy moments, there are really creepy moments, thrilling moments, and it is just another one of those things that is absolutely classic and has coloured our lives as gothic people, our lives as horror fans, vampires, everything can be traced back to this hit book. And of course there are other things, like I really wanted to include Carmilla, which is an old vampire book, which is also really important. So if you are interested in vampires, I think Carmilla came just before or around the same time as Bram Stoker wrote Dracula. And then there's Varney the Vampire and all of the original mythology. And of course things like Vlad Tepes, the history of Vlad Tepes, who lots of people think Bram Stoker based the character Dracula on, Vlad Dracul. So yeah. And I like this dude so much. I have 2 beautiful copies. I have other copies of Dracula and Frankenstein too, but I also have other collections of this dude. It is, of course, Edgar Allan Poe. Look how gorgeous this is, like seriously. So Edgar Allan Poe, he's a poet and a writer of prose. And you can find all sorts of different editions of his. This one is by the British Library. So this is the British Library's edition of his works. And it's just so gorgeous. It's holographic. Again, this is one of my prized possessions. And in here, this is just his stories. This is just some of his fiction. And some of the really good ones that I would recommend, I mean, I recommend them all, but Ligeia, The Fall of the House of Usher, The Mask of the Red Death, The Pit and the Pendulum, The Black Cat, The Telltale Heart, which is why there's a nice holographic heart. And this one is a rather gorgeous red sort of leather backed, but it has some other ones in here. This is obviously much bigger than this one, so this one has lots of other ones. Let me just go onto the contents page and suggest some more. Edgar Allan Poe, The Assignation, Silence, A Fable, The Mystery of Marie Roget, The Premature Burial, The Oblong Box. There's just loads. This is really cool. It has some really creepy illustrations. Can't ignore his poetry. I have a little Signet Classics edition of his poetry. And of course, you know, if it's a windy night, you can sit there in, you know, with a candle lit or a single lamp lit and maybe a glass of red wine and read yourself some Poe poetry on a Halloween night. Things like Tamerlane, Spirits of the Dead, Fairyland, that's quite a good one, Lenore, Bridal Ballad, The Haunted Place, and of course Annabel Lee and the Raven. So yeah, that is my very quick, very basic introduction to Gothic and horror literature. My little suggestion of things that you could read on Halloween evening. I'll see you in my next video, which will be a discussion of some of my favourite horror films. Don't have nightmares.